welcome back to G2E Day 2. We are here with Matt Fowler. Matt, thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you for having me on.
Yes, and you were here last year talking a little bit about your company.
Sure.
Can you tell us what the past year, have you had any new developments? What's going on with your brand?
Yeah, maybe just to start with, I guess some of your viewers maybe not too familiar with who we are. So International Betting Integrity Association, IBIA, is a global not-for-profit integrity monitor. We're created by the regulated sector to combat the threat of match fixing 20 years ago this year, actually, all the way back in 2005. Actually been a really significant year for us. So on the back of our anniversary, we've really gone out to our stakeholders really and wanted to review, how we approach things going forward. How can we really improve? We feel like we're the gold standard for integrity going forward, but how do we really reinforce that? And that's led to something called Mission 2030, which, to say, we consulted quite widely with our stakeholders on this. I took that opportunity to reflect, how do we move forward? It's come back with three sort of key pillars, really. Firstly, our global monitoring and alert platform. So that's something I'm personally quite invested in. I'm head of operations for global operations for IBIA, so this is really my focus. We've invested a significant amount in enhancing our alert platform and how that looks for our operators and stakeholders. The second sort of plank and tenet around this is around enhanced collaboration. I think collaboration is probably an often overused word in our space. We're heavily involved in sports betting integrity. That involves different stakeholders coming together, and we really want to enhance and really enforce those partnerships we have in place. And then the third kind of key pillar, really, calling it prevention, enhanced prevention. A significant part of that would be athlete education. That's something we have a lot of experience in going back many years. But also within that area, we're looking at how we can influence regulation, really, particularly around the debate, for example, around market offering here in the US and elsewhere as well. And then also around our policy engagement. So they're the three key areas. And then what you can see that's really come out of that is a completely new visual identity for us, which has actually gone live today, October the 8th, something we're really excited about. New logo, completely new look and feel to reflect, I think the way our association, our industry is heading to try and address some of those challenges. And also we have a new website that's gone live just this morning, actually, so I'd ask any of your viewers to check that out. That's at ibia.bet as well.
Oh, excellent. Definitely will check that out. So what are some of the biggest barriers you see in gaming right now when it comes to match fixing? Like, what are you continually running into? Sure.
I think you'd perhaps be forgiven for thinking integrity issues are perhaps more widespread than they are. I think there's been some high-profile issues here in the US and elsewhere, which understandably really dominate the discourse. They create a lot of headlines, but when you drill down into it, there are a very small number of integrity incidents compared to the number of matches that are offered in the global market. So we did an extensive study on this a few years back now, looking at the markets our operators offered, and over 99.9% of those markets pass without any incidents whatsoever. So we're really laser-focused on that less than 1%, but that less than 1% do generate a lot of media interest. And again, going back to the prevention pillar of our work, I think there is a bit of a challenge at the moment where I think understandably, if there's an incident within a particular market, it's probably politically attractive for regulators and other stakeholders to think actually we should restrict access to those betting markets. And our view has always been that actually prohibition doesn't work. If that demand exists for a particular betting market, if it's not met in the regulated sector, it'll absolutely be met offshore. And I think there's a real danger regulators and other stakeholders end up with the worst of both worlds, in that states are missing out on their tax revenue, but just as importantly, they're missing out on the oversight. They're not getting the activity reported to them in the regulated market where the checks and balances and the guardrails are in place. So I think with effective regulation, hopefully we would suggest that the data backs that up as well. As an example, our global soccer alerts, over 90% of those are suspicious wagering comes from customers who are located outside of the country where the game was played. So I think it just highlights how much of a global issue this is as well.
With all of the responsible gaming in mind, what's a hot take that you have on the industry right now?
Well, that's an interesting one. I'll probably go back to one of my earlier points, really. This push to restrict access to particular markets. And I think there's an understandable lot of focus on how do we push unregulated operators out of the market? How do we get rid of the offshore books? But I think an often underdeveloped area is how do we pull more activity into the regulated sector? And I think that's about making it as attractive as possible for customers, where when they bet with a regulated operator, there's a broad product offering, the tax rate's competitive, because obviously that feeds into what the operators can offer their customers, because ultimately we want that channeling rate to be as high as we possibly can. So what I'd like to see in the coming year is a real evidence-based approach to decision making. As I say, I think there's a danger that kind of snap decisions are made on the back of one-off incidents without taking a step back and zooming out and saying, actually, for the good of the industry longer term, we need to take a more sort of holistic approach really and look at the medium and long term rather than snap short-term decisions, and hopefully that will translate into regulated operators being able to offer a really attractive product to their customers, because ultimately that will be the silver bullet that gets rid of the unregulated market as best we can.
Matt, thank you so much for your time today.
Not at all. You're welcome. Thanks for having me on.